Hey everyone, welcome back to Story Science, where we dive deep into the fascinating stories that shape our world. I'm the guy, and today I'm thrilled to share a groundbreaking idea for our next documentary. In the bustling world of transportation, an intricate dance of mechanics and engineering takes center stage, the symphony of the automobile. Join us on a journey as we uncover the inner workings of these remarkable machines that have become an integral part of our daily lives. At the core of every car lies its beating heart, the internal combustion engine. Imagine a series of controlled explosions, a ballet of pistons and cylinders working in harmony. This is where the magic begins. Imagine you have a small toy car with a balloon tied to the back. When you blow up the balloon, it expands and pushes the car forward. An internal combustion engine works in a similar way, but instead of a balloon, it uses fuel and air to create an explosion that pushes a piston. The piston is a metal cylinder that moves up and down inside a metal tube called a cylinder. The fuel and air are mixed together and then ignited by a spark plug. The explosion forces the piston down, which turns a crankshaft. The crankshaft is a long, rotating rod that converts the up and down motion of the piston into rotational motion, which is what powers most vehicles and other machines. Here's a simplified explanation of the four-stroke cycle of an internal combustion engine. 1 intake stroke. The intake valve opens, allowing a mixture of fuel and air to be sucked into the cylinder. 2 compression stroke. The intake valve closes and the piston moves upward, compressing the fuel-air mixture. 3 power stroke. The spark plug ignites the compressed fuel-air mixture, causing an explosion that forces the piston downward. 4 exhaust stroke. The exhaust valve opens and the piston moves upward, pushing the burned gases out of the cylinder. This cycle is repeated hundreds of times per minute, generating the power that drives your car or other machine.
Gearbox. Imagine you're riding a bike. When you're starting out, you pedal slowly and use a low gear to help you get going. Once you're up to speed, you can switch to a higher gear and pedal faster without having to put in as much effort. A car's gearbox works in a similar way. It has a set of gears that allow the engine to turn the wheels at different speeds. This is important because the engine can only spin at a certain speed, but the car needs to be able to go much faster and slower than that. The gearbox has different gear ratios, just like your bike. Each gear ratio is like a different speed setting for the engine. When you change gears, you're basically telling the gearbox to use a different one of these settings. Clutch in a manual transmission car. The clutch is like a switch that disconnects the engine from the gearbox. This allows the driver to change gears without the engine stalling. When you press the clutch pedal, you're disengaging the clutch, which means the engine is no longer connected to the gearbox. This frees up the gearbox so you can move the gear shift to a different gear. Once you've selected a new gear, you slowly release the clutch pedal. This gradually re-engages the clutch and the engine starts to spin the wheels again. In an automatic transmission car, the clutch is controlled by a computer, so the driver doesn't have to worry about it. The computer automatically disengages the clutch when the driver changes gears and re-engages it when the car is ready to move. Imagine you're riding a bike. When you pedal, the power from your legs is transferred to the rear wheel through a chain. This chain is like the drive shaft in a car. It takes the power from the engine and transfers it to the wheels. The differential is like a special gear system that allows the wheels to turn at different speeds. This is important when you're turning, because the inside wheel needs to turn slower than the outside wheel. Here's how the drive shaft and differential work together. The engine generates power, which is then transferred to the transmission. The transmission selects the appropriate gear ratio and sends the power to the drive shaft. The drive shaft rotates and transfers the power to the differential. The differential distributes the power to the wheels, allowing them to turn at different speeds when necessary. So, the The drive shaft and differential are essential components of a car's drivetrain, working together to transfer power from the engine to the wheels and ensure that the wheels can turn at different speeds when needed. Imagine your car is like a big, powerful animal. When it eats fuel and breathes air, it produces waste in the form of hot gases. These gases are like the animal's breath, but they're not very friendly to the environment. That's where the exhaust system comes in. It's like the animal's digestive system, taking care of the waste and making sure it doesn't harm the surroundings. Exhaust manifold. The exhaust manifold is like a big collector. It gathers all the hot, dirty exhaust gases from the different cylinders in the engine. It's like the animal's stomach, where all the undigested food goes. Catalytic converter. The catalytic converter is like a special filter. It takes the harmful gases from the exhaust manifold and cleans them up. It's like the animal's intestines, where the food is broken down and absorbed, leaving behind waste. Muffler. The muffler is like a silencer. It takes the loud, roaring exhaust gases and makes them quieter. It's like the animal's lungs, where the air is taken in and cleaned before being released. Imagine your car engine as a hard-working athlete, constantly running and producing heat. Just like an athlete needs a cooling system to stay in top shape, your car engine also needs a cooling system to prevent overheating. The cooling system is like a team of superheroes working together to keep your engine cool and happy. Let's meet the key members of this team. Radiator. Think of the radiator as the ultimate cooler, like a giant air conditioner for your engine. It's made up of thin tubes that carry coolant, a special liquid that absorbs heat. As the coolant flows through the tubes, air passes over them, cooling them down. Water pump. The water pump is the powerhouse of the cooling system. It's like a heart that pumps coolant throughout the engine, circulating it through the radiator and back to the engine. This constant flow of coolant keeps the engine from overheating. How it works. Hot engine. The engine gets hot as it runs, generating heat from the combustion of fuel. Coolant absorption. Hot coolant flows from the engine into the radiator. Air cooling. Air passes over the radiator's tubes, cooling down the coolant. Coolant circulation. Cooled coolant flows back into the engine. Repeat. The cycle repeats, keeping the engine cool. Together, the radiator and water pump work tirelessly to maintain the engine's optimal temperature, ensuring your car performs at its best. How it works. Hot engine. The engine gets hot as it runs, generating heat from the combustion of fuel. Coolant absorption. Hot coolant flows from the engine into the radiator. Air cooling. Air passes over the radiator's tubes, cooling down the coolant. Coolant circulation. Cooled coolant flows back into the engine. Repeat. The cycle repeats, keeping the engine cool. Together, the radiator and water pump work tirelessly to maintain the engine's optimal temperature, ensuring your car performs at its best. Alternator. While the battery provides the initial electrical energy, the alternator is responsible for keeping the battery charged and supplying power to the electrical system while the engine is running. Think of the alternator as a special generator that uses the engine's power to create electricity. When the engine is running, the alternator converts the mechanical energy from the engine into electrical energy, which is then used to charge the battery and power the electrical system. So the battery is like the starter pack that gets your car going, while the alternator is like the power plant that keeps the electrical system running smoothly while you're driving. Imagine you're riding a bicycle on a bumpy road. As you hit bumps, your bike bounces and jiggles, making for a rough ride. Your car's suspension system works like a shock absorber for your car, smoothing out the bumps and keeping your car stable and comfortable. The main components of a suspension system are springs. These are like the bouncy coils in a trampoline. They absorb the bumps and keep your car from bouncing up and down too much. Shocks, or dampers. These are like the brakes for the springs. They control the bouncing and keep your car from swaying too much from side to side. Struts. These are like a combination of springs and shocks. They are used in some cars instead of separate springs and shocks. Other components of the suspension system include control arms. These are the links that connect the suspension to the wheels. Bushings. These are rubber cushions that help isolate noise and vibration. Sway bars. These are like springs that help keep your car from leaning too much when you turn. All of these components work together to keep your car stable and comfortable, whether you're driving on a smooth highway or a bumpy dirt road. Imagine you're riding your bike and want to slow down or stop. You squeeze the brake levers, which press against the brake pads, which in turn rub against the wheels, slowing them down. This is similar to how a car's brakes work. Brake disc and brake drum. Think of these as the wheels your brake pads or shoes press against. Brake discs, also known as rotors, are smooth metallic discs attached to the wheels. Brake drums, on the other hand, are hollow, bell-shaped components that enclose the brake shoes, brake caliper, and brake cylinder. These are like the hands that squeeze the brake pads or shoes. Brake calipers are mechanical devices that house the brake pads and apply force to them when you press the brake pedal. Brake cylinders, on the other hand, are hydraulic components that move the brake shoes by pushing them outwards. Master cylinder. This is like the heart of the braking system. It converts the force you apply to the brake pedal into hydraulic pressure. This pressure is then transmitted through brake lines to the calipers or cylinders, which in turn activate the brake pads or shoes. Together, these components work together to slow down or stop your car safely. When you press the brake pedal, the master cylinder creates hydraulic pressure, which is sent to the brake calipers or cylinders. These components then push the brake pads or shoes against the brake discs or drums, creating friction that slows down the wheels in the car. So, next time you're riding in a car, think about all these components working together to keep you safe. The braking system is a crucial part of any vehicle, and its importance cannot be overstated.